Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Aga Wilson Show. Today I have Alexander Pohl with me again for a follow-up interview. I know last time we talked about the climate change and the wind turbines in Sweden. So we're going to continue our conversation because a lot has happened since. We did talk about the 50 plus meeting that happened in Stockholm, but now we're past that meeting, so maybe we'll start there, because you were telling us a bunch of things that were going to happen, and we're kind of seeing some of this coming together, and a lot of people talking about climate change right now, the politicians, and I've seen it repeated in media a lot lately. So going back to that meeting, what happened, and what do you like? What have you seen has come true? From what we spoke about.
Yeah, so thank you first of all for having me back. I'm so glad that we can carry on these conversations because the world is continuing to change in very strange ways, and unless you have someone like you cataloging it, it will be difficult for anyone to understand how we ended up where we are. And Stockholm plus 50 was a very strange event for me. Was it a breakdown or a breakthrough? I don't know. But it was 50 years after 1972 where Sweden kicked off the modern environmental movement. Greenpeace, the Miljöpartiet, all of these sort of anchors of greenness that we are seeing shouting in the news, most of them came out of this 1972 meeting. So Sweden was at the heart of modern environmentalism, or modern whatever, this obsession and almost fanatical religion that has now become sort of the climate movement. So I thought 50 years later it would be something equally astronomically big because, it made sense. Sweden requested it. There were millions and millions spent. And the event, and then of course I did a lot of warning people and raising awareness. I contacted 30 major newspapers and said, you're not printing a word about Stockholm plus 50. It's very strange. So did we all collectively manifest something worse not happening? Or did they do what they needed to do? So the event, I came to Stockholm. I tried to get in to the United Nations event itself. Obviously I have good friends who are part of good media outlets, and I contacted one of them, and he needed a cameraman. So we tried to get through on press, sat there waiting 7 hours, speaking to all different interesting people. And at the end we were told we were not the right kind of media to be present at the United Nations, which we felt was a little bit harsh, but it was perfect because it just validated again that the narrative is being carefully curated, and we need people asking intelligent questions like you always do, Aga, and then sharing it with the world. So I couldn't get into the event itself, but it was there was lots of heavy security, and a lot of money was spent. We spoke to some of the people who came from India. In other words, there were lots of people there spending, money in luxury. So we couldn't get in. There were a number of ancillary events. So one was We Don't Have Time, which is a Swedish-based climate platform. It's like the Facebook for climate. And it's run by Ingmar Renshaug, the CEO, and I met him. He's a very passionate, well-spoken former BlackRock PR guy who then moved across into the climate scene. And they had hired out the Space Arena, which is down by Sergels Torg. It's like a high-tech hub. And they had a better than CNN sort of studio set up. And they did the most incredible sort of week-long content. The CEO of Rag & Cells, they had celebrities, they had, investors. I don't know if they had the king or queen or princess. It was that caliber of people attending. Yeah. But there was no one in the audience. Wow. So it was, I'm not going to say it was a fabrication, but it made you feel like the whole world was behind climate and all of the solutions, wind turbines, electrification, digital, all of this, but there was no one there.
Wow.
And so I attended a number of the sessions. It was really good, It's really good to look behind the scenes and see it for yourself. And then we participated in Greta Thunberg's Fridays for the Future. They had a demonstration, a march from Odenplan down to not Sergels, down to the middle of town. And I had found out that there was some weird things going on there. And so I wanted to make sure that I was part of it. And it was big. So actually, for considering it was Stockholm plus 50, actually there was one big thing. But the event was official. It was, sanctioned by the UN. It was sanctioned by the... So, it was staged. Not that anyone who participated in it knew it.
Yeah.
But, if you're allowed, you were on message or controlled opposition. And they were so angry. So I was with a group of Fridays for Future kids. It was very funny because we had made a banner. And I am evolving activism technology. And basically I had an emergency blanket, a foil blanket, plastic foil blanket. And we wrote on it, United Nations equals World Economic Forum. And we just put the question, does that make you wonder? Because we were trying to highlight to people that, Antonio Guterres, who is the head of the UN, who is the main voice behind the IPCC and, climate change, he's a globalist. You're blaming the globalists for all our problems, yet you're taking your advice from a globalist. At least there should be a paradox light bulb that goes on saying that doesn't make sense. And so lots of people, of course, sometimes those of us who question the narrative are called tinfoil hats. So it was hilarious to bring a tinfoil banner into the midst of a climate... And we didn't do it to undermine them or anything, because we didn't say these people are idiots or anything. We just wanted to give them new information and talk, and it was amazing. The number of people who did realize that maybe things aren't as being presented, maybe, these globalists are not being so good, and they were very angry. So, we want climate justice. And I asked them, what is climate justice? Can you let me know what it means? Hey, good stuff. Hey, the other conspiracy, the other fraud, the other exploitation. Where there's fear, there's money. I'm a 20-year banker trying to tell the truth. Hey! Saudi! Saudi! Whoa! Hey! No! Hey! No! And we want it now. And I was like, and what will the world look like when you get climate justice? And obviously they didn't have answers. So it was really useful to sort of have an intellectual conversation to say, well, are we not more worried about people and nature, like the living world, than climate, which isn't a lot. So we started to have a useful conversation to help them go back to the right focus, because we have lots of world problems, etc. So that was really good. And then the last thing was the ABF, which is a big socialist association here in Sweden. They hosted again, because in 1972 they hosted like a parallel program of activity, which was in ABF House, which is on I forget what road it's on, but it's Sveavägen, exactly. And so again I was like, oh, amazing, they have all these programs with tribal leaders from the Amazon, and I was like, incredible. I mean, I was like, oh wow, to meet these people in one place. And then I turn up at the ABF and there's like 5 people, and of course all of the content has these panel speakers so it looks like it's really busy, but they don't show you that there's only 5 people in the audience. So again, it was a curated, fake, staged event. And I met a lot of the people who were speaking there, and they didn't realize that they were effectively pawns. But again, I was speaking to them, climate, these wind farms, the heavy industrial, lithium, all of the things that you need to deliver what they're telling us we need will kill us all. So, I equally said, so it's 2050. So this was a question I asked many people. Imagine it's 2050 and we have achieved net zero. Whatever that means, the spreadsheet or the AI or the computer says green light, net zero 2050. But we are all dead. Do we have a party? Because genuinely that's the approach that's being taken. No view on consequences. Here is a solution. we will do everything that we need to do to push it through. We see the similar approaches being taken around COVID. I don't even engage on the debate of where COVID comes from or where climate change comes from, other than it's an unknown question that's really interesting to understand. Is it people's base health? Yeah. Are we all so sick that COVID is something that was here anyway, and we reached a level of sickness that it could come through?
Just to back up, because I wanted the audience to understand. So what is your whole take on climate change? Like what according to you is real climate change? Is it real? Is it not real? What's actually destroying our planet? Or what's your whole take on that question and issue?
One is I have a 20-year career, and aspects of my career are based on things that I no longer believe in. Is climate change real? Do humans change the climate? Without a doubt. During my summer holiday, during the 3 months between that previous interview and today, I drove to Bosnia, and on the way back I stopped in Austria. And I stopped in a region of Austria which is famous for apples. And I was speaking to my friends, and we were talking about geoengineering, and they said to me, but we use geoengineering all the time because they've been spraying the clouds with materials to prevent hail, because hail destroys the apple crop. So they are changing the climate, literally, like for commercial reasons, with planes that spray stuff into the clouds. And then at the same time, you say, oh, they're spraying things in the sky. And they're like, what you mean, your tinfoil hat? I'm like, but they commercially do it in Austria. So humans definitely change the climate. And we change the climate through land use change. So when we cut down the forest, it changes rainfall. When we irrigate and when we take water, when we create dams. So we are forever changing the climate, right? And through direct physical means and chemical means. Now, is greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, the main culprit? I have to say, based on what I have seen, I don't see the evidence. Is it a contributor? 100%. But is it the main thing that if you got rid of it, we would fix everything? I do not see anywhere near the evidence that would suggest that it would fix it, right? And the systems are super complicated. They're based on computer models. And as we know at the beginning of, say, COVID, Neil Ferguson said we would all die. And it was based on a computer model. Then they said the computer model was wrong. Oh, well, hey, we did a bunch of stuff based on this computer model. And just yesterday, or the day before, one of the heads of the climate stuff in Biden's government, in the US government, got let go, I believe, fired, let go, whatever it is, had to leave her post, for influencing research that was being done on climate change. Giving contracts for certain research to her brother. And so nepotism, influencing the outcomes of various research pieces, directing research or not funding, research that is to the contrary. Because anyone who is a scientist knows that a scientist, when they do research, they propose a hypothesis. The sky is purple. And then they undertake experiments and so forth to either validate or prove their hypothesis or disprove. And there is no shame in saying the sky is purple and then saying, well, actually the sky is all colors except for blue. I don't know, because it's not actually blue, it's the reflection, right? So we should be having contrarian discussions, but there is no work being done to say that climate change is as the result of something else. So if you want to get so there's a lot of conflicts and bias. So I'm not saying with any certainty that Greta Thunberg's great-grandfather, or Svante Arrhenius, who is sometimes credited with carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas or is the main culprit of climate change. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I'm just saying based on an observation, looking at the world, I think it's more direct physical interventions, deforestation, cities, and of course what's also interesting is the narrative. So the world is warming. Okay, that's a statement. It's supposedly fact. But then you have to look at what data they used to get to that conclusion. And there's lots of work that's being done that says that a lot of the data had to be manipulated to be able to be compatible. So they built a population. And of course, if you're measuring certain things like temperature at night in a place where you've deforested it, it will be warmer at night, because a place with a forest is cooler at night than a place without a forest. So there were lots of things that on data, where they could then tell a story. So my main position is, of course, people are changing the climate. Of course, the climate is changing. It changes all the time. Humans exacerbate it. Our cities are, heat islands. They're not healthy places. We spray stuff into the sky, like I was saying, for commercial reasons. And maybe you can do it for sinister reasons, They were trying to spray to make drought conditions over enemy places to starve the enemy. So it's a military concept as well. And of course, the Beijing Olympics, the Chinese used it so that it wouldn't rain during the opening ceremony. And so don't get me started on humans being to blame for a changing climate. But definitely we cannot fix it with lithium batteries, wind turbines, solar panels, electrification, electric cars, digital everything. Carefully, everyone being vegan and eating insects and lab-grown fake golem food. So you have to ask yourself, why are they pushing it so hard? What? And that's where I'm still confused.
But what about, because they're always saying that we have like only a few years left before like the end of the world, basically. No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that if we don't stop it now, it's going to be disastrous and the world will basically end or go under. So what do you think about that? I mean, are you worried that it's going to change that quickly, that there's no turning back in like 10, 15 years from now?
If we keep building wind turbines, batteries, keep urban densification, so moving more people to the cities, laying fiber cables and electrical cables and going industrially terraforming the planet, I think we will kill ourselves. So it's collective suicide. But I don't think that we're all going to die from climate change in the next 5 years. I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but since almost 1972, which was the pinnacle Stockholm Convention that we were talking about with Stockholm Plus 50, that really was the point where they started turning up the dial on we're all going to die. Club of Rome, Limits to Growth. Club of Rome is an elitist, globalist organization, presented a book, you're all going to die. And then 73 happened with the oil crisis. Then, there has been repeated you're all going to die from various things. You're all going to die from AIDS. You're all going to die from, glyphosate. You're all going to die from PFOS. You're all going to die from plastics. You're all going to die from, whatever. So to be perfectly honest, I'm not afraid of we're all going to die from those things. I'm starting to get really worried that we're all going to die from this industrial monster that will just consume the natural living world. And that you can't come back from, because once the planet is like Mars, once it is, like basically a desert devoid of living things, you can't get it back. So I'm more worried about the Borg, the Matrix, the industrial machine than I am about natural processes and, the climate and nature and diseases. Once again, dis-ease, even the word disease is you're out of balance. So I'm not even worried about disease anymore.
So what's your take on them pushing the climate agenda the way they do right now? Because obviously it differs from your beliefs in terms of what really destroys our planet. So what's the plan? Like, why are they doing this?
It is very difficult to comprehend that there might be a sinister, like ego, selfish aim. I think rich people and elites sometimes think that they are better than everyone else. And there was something which was called the Georgia Guidestones, which conveniently this year got blown up. Who blew it up, I don't know. But the Georgia Guidestones were the new 10 commandments that said how the world should exist. It was probably created by elitists who put it for whatever fashion or whatever purpose. But people like Bill Gates think they know how the world should be. Is Bill Gates God? Of course not. But you see elite globalist after elite globalist, from Antonio Guterres through to Obama, through to, whatever Russian or Chinese. This is not a race thing. These people are everywhere, saying that they know best. And that best usually involves most normal citizens like us becoming like pawns or slaves to their system. It is the Hunger Games, in effect. And that is something that is, I think it's like a natural thing that certain people want to dominate other people. And when you're super rich, like, what does Elon Musk have, 100 billion, 200 billion? I don't lose track of the number. Money doesn't matter anymore. You don't do it for money. You do it for some type of ego or some type of evil, domination of other people. And I think that can be fixed. So I don't think, that's why I'm also very positive, is I think these globalists either will commit suicide because they have so much guilt when they come to terms with the fact that what they're doing, which their parents probably taught them or their grandparents taught, this is passed down brainwashing that the elite are better than the rest of us. They'll either kill themselves or that they will come around and try to make good. So I'm really hopeful that it's try to make good, because I kind of have this concept that, the evil people in the world, you have two choices. You either bring them out of their evil dark place into the light, or you kill them. And I'm not really into killing people, so I want to bring them into the light. And but it's a really strange one. But, I am more confident than ever based on observation and evidence. So in Jämtland, where I live, up in the north of Sweden, a beautiful part. If you want to go on holiday, come to Jämtland. We have nature, nice people, etc. But I had a big fight with the newspaper. It's a little local newspaper called Jämtlands Tidning. The editor, I had some, because I like to debate with people, and I just contact them. I said, hey, your newspaper is really pro-wind. Are you wind farm propaganda? And so we had a back and forth, and he said, you're a total bastard for saying this. How could you accuse me? I'm so independent. I wouldn't, right? And then whatever, they printed a lot more propaganda stuff, and then they printed that I moved to Jämtland because I love wind power. And of all the people in the world that you should say that about, you don't say it about me. And so I did some research, and it turned out that before he had this newspaper, he literally had a newspaper called Vindkraftstidning, which was the industry's propaganda magazine. And, he took tons of money from. And then it turned out that the co-founder of the Jämtlands Tidning was a guy who worked at the Vindkraftcentrum, which was a Swedish government-funded propaganda machine to get more people to support wind power. So it was 100%, and he lied. And, they would not print any negative articles about wind power in ÖP and LTZ. Those are two Bonnier News outlets, one of the main houses of media in Sweden. They own two of our regional 3 newspapers, and they will never print anything other than where they have to, anti-wind. They wouldn't print my film Headwind, Headwind 21. I keep pushing it. They wouldn't even present it as, oh wow, here's some really good efforts coming out of Jämtland. Silence. So the cancel culture. And going back to why are they doing it? Control. They are preying on every human being's good nature, because I genuinely think all people are good, or like destined to be good. We sometimes do bad things. We sometimes do unethical things, of course, because we're not perfect. But they're preying on that. And, this morning, I was at the Riksdag. I tried to see Greta, though I don't think they will let me even say hi anymore, because the globalists who sadly...
You're known there.
Yeah. Well, because again, these are super passionate kids who would go, they would pretty much do anything for Greta. But I just asked them the question, where do you get your information from? And they said, we get it from the scientists. And then I was like, well, who's paying those scientists? And, do you ever want to know how the scientists got the information? This curiosity and wanting to learn. Many kids don't have that anymore. You tell them red is blue and blue is red, they'll say, okay. But, this is when you start getting old. I'm only 45, but I'm not old yet. But when I was a kid, I wanted to know, why. Kids, I'm surprised that the climate movement, Extinction Rebellion, Fridays for Future, etc., why doesn't seem to be in their vocabulary. Why are wind turbines going to save us? And then the only thing they can say is, oh yeah, because wind turbines don't produce CO2. And I said, why? How did you come to that conclusion? They clearly do produce CO2, because when a wind turbine's not turning, they're burning the diesel generators over here, or gas-fired generators or whatnot. So the cement that they use was produced with CO2, and so you cannot say that it doesn't produce CO2. Good, it might compensate for it or whatnot, but then I was like, but what about everything else? Killing the trees, it kills like apex predators, which undermine ecosystem. And they're like, and I'm like, because they're not stupid. I'm by no means implying that people who believe in climate change and wind turbines will save the world are stupid. I don't. I just don't think that they have enough information, and the right information, or like enough information probably, to have come to the right conclusion themselves. So they kind of outsourced their thinking, because it's convenient and easy. And if Antonio Guterres and Magdalena Andersson, you're gods, because our politicians are almost like gods these days, they're not normal people anymore, tell you, then you just blindly trust. So yeah, it's a really strange one. So a long answer to, I don't know.
You don't know. No, but and you're right. It is like that. And I feel that people don't even take time to like do their own research. If their boss tells them, like, here's, some reports and papers, and this is what we're going to do, everyone is just like, yeah, okay. No one even takes the time to read, anymore. And when I speak to some of the people that actually do take the time, they find crazy things. So, and they find out about the truth. So I'm wondering also why that's happening, around the world, that people are just like too lazy to do their homework anymore. They just like take orders, and they just, think everything is fine. So it's a very interesting, phenomenon.
Definitely. No, I was just going to say, and I think that the people who are waking up and who are doing lots of research, part of that research is because they want to find the truth. But I think also people enjoy knowledge and getting new knowledge. And so, we're bringing out people who are, they're a janitor. I do sometimes find it interesting who is awake and who is not. But, humans are incredible. We're super smart. And we used to all be Renaissance people. We could do everything. We could be a doctor, because when you were on the farm or whatnot, you had to do everything. And so we're super talented artists, musicians, mechanically, etc. And that is all atrophied. And, we could say that we've been exploited and taken advantage of by the elite, because it's easy to keep us dumb. And then they want you locked down. So there are lots of parallels to that. But humans are not to be locked down. We are infinite beings. And so when people start to wake up to that, I think they get empowered, and I'm no longer afraid, because my mom, bless her, she's always like, are you not worried that they might do something to you? And I'm like, Mom, I'm not important. All I'm trying to do is just tell some truth, or some additional information that I have. Is it truth or not? I'm not even saying that I know the truth, but I have more information that I want to share so people can make better decisions and come to better conclusions.